ideas right there, because we're going to talk about how those affect your training methodology. The common thing, I go back to that one mistake that everybody makes when they go into the gym and they start training too hard. They burn carbohydrates for fuel. You can train your body to burn more carbohydrates or more fat. You can condition your body to do that through the type of training you use. If you go into the gym and you hit it hard and you're working at your near maximum thresholds all the time because you're thinking, I've got to hit this and crank it out, I've got to really hit this hard today, I've got to make some results happen, you're going to start burning glucose. First thing your body's going to do is it's going to go to the bloodstream, it's going to find all the glucose in your bloodstream and it's going to burn that up. That takes 10 minutes. That's gone. Then the body looks to glycogen. Glycogen is glucose stored in muscles. It looks at the muscles you use the most. So first of all, if you go to the gym and you hit it hard, and you do the same activity every time, so you get on the treadmill and run, the body goes, oh, we're running. We're going to use all this glycogen in the muscles, in the legs, in the hamstring, in the quadriceps, in the gastra to help get this going, because that's the demand. Those are the cells that are demanding fuel. So we're going to use the glucose stored in there, and then after you go to dinner, your body goes, and you know what? I bet we're going to run tomorrow too. I think we should probably pack more glycogen into those muscles again. So the next day you run, still hard, not so bad. The body goes, I bet we run tomorrow too. Let's put more glycogen into those muscles. So eventually, you're running just fine. You've got to max it out to run to get the same kind of effort you're getting in. And all you're burning is that glycogen in your bloodstream. And that sounds like a great idea because you're storing up these kinds of muscles to generate that kind of fuel for you. Same thing goes with fighting. When you're out fighting, your body goes, I know what muscle systems we're going to use, and I'm going to put glycogen into those muscles, and it's going to get easier for those muscles to perform this job every time I go out. But once that glycogen is gone, you're done. If you're exercising at a maximum intensity, if you're going to the gym and cranking it every day, trying to hit it as hard as you can, that's all you're doing. You're conditioning your body to run on sugar. And once your body's out of sugar, you're done. No more. You're going to crash. So, what we want to start using for endurance is fat. Now, fat, everybody knows, has more calories than a carbohydrate. And it's a better fuel source. That's why. It generates more energy for you. There's a trick to it, though. Your body needs oxygen in the bloodstream to convert fat into a carbohydrate. So it needs oxygen reserves. That means if you're going to the gym and you're running again, and you're in oxygen debt, you're huffing and puffing, and then you stop running and you got to catch your breath, you're not burning fat. You're not optimizing your body's ability to generate fuel for a long duration activity. You need to have oxygen to do that. And what we find is when we do these submaximal tests on people, we can also determine what their VO2 uptake. We can determine what their volume of their lung capacity is. We can also determine how much of that oxygen gets into their bloodstream and gets to cells and gets to working muscles. So it's no coincidence that the people who are better at burning fat have more oxygen in their blood. And when you have more oxygen in your blood, your muscles recover faster. So here's how that works. You're in a fight, you're in a tournament, it's the finals of Crown, you've got a really intense fight, you fight really hard, let's say 30 seconds, all out, non-stop. And 30 seconds when you're going all out is a long time. You back off, your opponent backs off, but you've been training to burn fat. You've been training to increase the amount of oxygen you get into your bloodstream. Your heart's, let's say 90% its maximum when you stop fighting. In less than a minute, it's going to go down near to its resting rate. You're going to recover while your opponent is still catching his breath. That's endurance. It's not how high your heart rate goes, it's how quickly you bring your heart rate down. And that's because you've taught your body to burn fat. When you teach your body to burn fat, it automatically increases the amount of oxygen you get into your bloodstream because it needs that to convert that fat into glucose and to convert that into ATP. So that's the trick. We call that kind of training aerobic base building. If you do not have an aerobic base, you do not have endurance. It's just that simple. Lance Armstrong will do 3 months of aerobic base training. That's why his resting pulse, 33 beats per minute. He's trained his heart rate down. His heart is so good at pumping nutrients, it doesn't have to beat higher than 33 beats per minute. That's his base rate. So it's even lower than that when he sleeps. Wow.
What's an average dude who's not like horribly out of shape? What's an average heart rate for a guy who's in moderately decent shape?
Anywhere between 60 and 80 beats per minute. Yeah, that's normal. That's average. I mean, I'm also an EMT, so we don't worry about people's heart rates until we see it above 90. We worry about anybody below 50. We take a good look at, unless they're athletic. We worry about below 50. So, yeah, considerably different. That's a big difference. We want to see in athletes, we want to see a heart rate recovery of 30 beats in 55 seconds. That's what we want to see. We know somebody's athletically conditioned when we can get that kind of recovery response. The training for it is really easy. It's just really boring. And athletes hate boring in a big way. So we take a guy in. We had a guy who was a competitive mountain biker. Give him the VO2 submaximal test. The guy's in phenomenal shape. He's 5'11". I think he was 160. He was 4% body fat. Wow. His lung capacity was enormous. It was 73 liters per kilogram of weight. That's huge. That's a huge amount of oxygen he's taking in. 13% of the oxygen he inhaled went into his blood. He exhaled everything else out. And we're all watching the printout. We're all watching the diagram. We're all looking at him. He's riding on this, on the stationary bike, looking at us. And we're looking at him. He starts shaking his head because he knows what we're going to tell him. You're going to go to the park and you're going to ride around the lake for 3 months. You're just going to go around the park and around the lake. And he knew that was coming and he was dreading that. He's like, oh, I hate that. Yeah, we can tell you hate that because you can tell by your readings you haven't been doing that. So to build endurance, what you want to look at is when you're doing your cardio, first of all, you need to pick an activity that you're going to be able to do sustained for a long period of time. Because the key to this, to begin with, is duration. We have a lot of different factors we can play with when we're building training exercises for people. We can do with duration, frequency, intensity, mode of exercise. Pick a mode of exercise, so something that you can do for a long, sustained period of time. For most people, that's walking. Most people, some people can do a stationary bike. If you've got a gym that you can go to, sometimes you have an elliptical machine there, and those are good. Not a lot of people are going to go run and develop their base, unless you're already a runner.
What's a good duration? What's a long duration?
Well, it depends. Again, it depends on where you're at physically. Usually for somebody who's completely deconditioned, they haven't been in, and by deconditioned I mean if you haven't been in a gym in over a year or more, you're deconditioned. If you haven't been exercising frequently, by that I mean at least 3 times, more preferably a week. The best thing to do is to start out with about 30 minutes of activity. The reason you start 30 minutes is not going to help you build your base. But if you go out and do 90 minutes your first day out, and then the next day your knees go, no. We're not going to do that again. You've got to give yourself time to allow the tendons and ligaments in your body and your joints to become accustomed to a new activity. 90 minutes is too much to start out. But 90 minutes is ultimately what you're shooting for. 90 minutes to 2 hours sometimes is ultimately what you're going to shoot for. I don't know who's got 2 hours of time to go ride a bike or walk. I mean, I don't.
You have to do it in one stretch. You can't do
No.
1 hour sections.
Yep. You do not need to do it in one stretch. You can break it up into 10-minute pieces all day long. It is not required to do it in one stretch. So you can split it up throughout the day. We still see the same response.
Does it have to be in a 24-hour period, though?
It has to be within a 24-hour period. Yeah.
What's the intensity level you're shooting for?
Again, that also depends on the individual. Everybody's different. What we look at when we're talking about this is we start looking at heart rate maximums. You can go online. I don't use this. There's a Kervonen's formula to determine your maximum heart rate. Has anybody heard of that?
Subtract your age from 220.
Yeah. It's crap. It's garbage. Don't use it. But if you absolutely are the type of person that's got to have a number, go ahead and use it. Just be ready to adjust